Masai Ujiri is spending his time, I guess, looking for a head coach. He has interviewed a bunch of people. Has he interviewed any of the three latest firings?
No, I don't think so. I presume they would reach out probably to Williams, be the only one of those three. I'm not sure they're at the position where they want to recycle a Budenholzer or a Doc Rivers. Both of them have been successful coaches in the NBA. Both have won championships, but I don't. It doesn't seem to fit with what I understand Mazai and Bobby Webster want to do.
Except Budenholzer was the guy they seemed to want before they hired Nurse, wasn't
Well, they wanted him, and then they interviewed him twice and decided they didn't want him. So I can't imagine much has changed in that period of time.
And Masai does have a relationship with Doc, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I think everybody does because Doc's been around for so long.
Right.
You know, and Monty Williams is the interesting one of those three. Still relatively young, like 45, 41 maybe, still a young guy. Associate head coach in Oklahoma City, really good head coach in Phoenix, won a lot of games with a very, unique roster. Took them to the NBA Finals 2 years ago. Didn't win, but still got them there in a tough Western Conference. And he's a very, very highly respected guy among players. And I think that would be the reason I would reach out to him. No, I don't. Mazai is obviously, everything I hear is he's looking at the assistants and the not recycled coaches. And I don't know if he would be serious about Williams, but I think he should certainly make the call.
Why would they be interested in Williams, given that he was rather surprisingly, I think, fired?
Well, I think surprisingly because, not surprisingly in the fact that they had a new owner who's a very hands-on guy, Matt Ishbia, who used to play at Michigan State. He's a very hands-on guy, and maybe a new owner wants a new voice. And it was interesting to watch. Ishbia was involved with Jokic in that sort of kerfuffle over the ball when it went in the stands in Denver. And the interesting part was sitting right next to Ishbia was our old friend Isaiah Thomas. Right. So I'm not sure what kind of advisor role he's in right there, but a new owner gets a new toy, must get a new guy in there.
Well, in fact, Ishbia has a couple of advisors. If one of them is Isaiah, then his old coach from Michigan State's the other one, right?
Yeah,
that really darn well that he's.
Ishbia is really well connected in the basketball world, and multi-millionaire through monetary investments, like he's an investment broker or investment bank or something like that. But he's got ties to the NBA that are pretty deep and long lasting. He played at Michigan State, so he knows people, and people know him, and people will be in his ear. And if you're an owner, you want to put your own stamp on a team, I guess. And the stamp would be, you can't get rid of all the players, so let's get rid of the coach.
What do you think Masai is looking for in a head coach? What kind of answers would you give in an interview if you were interviewing for the coaching job?
I think he wants someone with a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy. I think he would like somebody who is willing to play young players and live through mistakes early in their careers with the young kids. And I think he just wants a different voice. Like when Nick came in, he was all new and exciting and did different things and played a different kind of style of way. But that got old in 5 years. And I think Mazai would like a different kind of voice, maybe a more enthusiastic guy. Nick was a little bit at the end, he was tough. He was, I don't know, bitter is not the right word, but I think he was just tired. And I think they want to re-energize the franchise. And that would be the kind of guy I think Mazai would be looking, kind of person Mazai would be looking for.
I think you get a sense with that, and we saw it on the hockey side with Kyle Dubas's comments with his end of season press conference of the drain and the pressure.
Oh, it's hard.
And it is hard, and it is exhausting, and it is 24/7, 365.
And for coaches, they got it's a little thing, but they got to deal with us 3 times every game day, and every day at practice. And it just after 5 or 7 years, 5 or 6 years, it's got to drain on you. It's got to be like, man, I got to catch a break. I got to take a break from this. You're right, John. Exhausting is the right word. It's a very, very hard job, and it is all consuming.
Now, Bob and I had a discussion about somebody from the outside that was rumored, and you had her in your story, and Becky Hammond. But now I noticed that Becky's now been suspended by the WNBA and the Aces for some what is described as workplace policies, respecting the workplace policies. So does that disqualify her for this situation?
The Raptors were interested in Ime Udoka, so no.
Yeah,
I don't think so at
Okay.
all. I think obviously there's a situation happened in Las Vegas with the Aces where they ended up trading a woman who just gave birth to her second child, Derica Hammer, and maybe they obviously didn't handle it correctly because the league suspended them and they took away a draft pick, which is a pretty big deal in the W. And Becky is absolutely a face of that brand of that league, but I don't think it disqualifies her from being in consideration in Toronto. I'm not sure exactly how serious the consideration was. I think she should get the job, personally. I think she's a very accomplished coach. I think it would be a great move by the Raptors. If you're going to go get somebody who hasn't been head coach before, why not go get a woman? If you look at her resume, if you put her resume on paper and didn't put the name at the top of it, you would be stunned that she hadn't been hired and fired twice before in her coaching career.
Yeah, but being the first woman head coach in the NBA is going to be a challenge. For
a couple months.
But it'll be a challenge for the organization too.
Sure.
It's going to be tough to fire her, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, it will be, but you're probably not going to fire her for 2.5 years, even if she's horrible. And by that time, the fans will be all with you. Well, she can't coach, you got to let her go. So I don't think. Yeah, eventually every coach gets fired because that's why they get hired, is to get fired eventually. So I don't think that would factor into it. I think she's just a very good coach. I've talked to.
I don't doubt that for a second. I'm also wondering about how the players would react.
Well, yeah, Bob, that's a valid point, and I actually sought out, I think, 4 players who played for her in San Antonio.
Yeah,
and all of them raved about her X's and O's knowledge, the respect they have for her, the way she handles herself in games, because she was a head coach a couple games when Pop didn't work, and she was a head coach of their summer league team one year. So she's been in that position. And the 4 guys I talked to all swore by her knowledge of the game, her ability to get her message across, and the respect they have for her as a coach. And
well, with respectfully though, they know they're talking to the media. They know you're going to report this, and they know it'll look bad on them if they were negative.
See, I didn't report it because I wanted to get honest assessment. I asked these guys.
But they don't know that, do they?
Well, trust me, a couple of them know me very well and know well enough that they can be honest with me.
And that's where off the record comes in, and that's where you don't have to attribute comments and quotes, Bob. I mean, if those guys, I think the key thing in all this was the summer league stuff. Because when she came out of summer league, you never heard anybody saying, "Wow, she's over her head."
Oh, she can coach, man. She can coach. That's bottom line. She can coach.
Well, I don't doubt that.
Give her a shot. And you know what, Bob, I get the point, and readers and fans have brought up to me too that what if players don't want to come and play for her? Well, you know what? If the players don't want to come and play for her, that's on the player, because those guys, you can shake a tree and find 10 players. Superstars are going to get coached by good coaches, and she's had great players under her. And if that's going to be an issue, well, let's move on from that player, because no one is that important.
Yeah.
And if they're that petty, you don't want them around your franchise anyway.
What we don't know about Masai Ujiri is what is his interviewing strategy when he talks to these coaches? Do you think he says, what do you think of Pascal Siakam? What do you think of this player? What do you think of our roster?
I think that would come into it, but much later in the process. I think he would be asking about, okay, how do you motivate players? How will you 10 seconds left in a 3-point game. Do you foul or not foul? That kind of thing, rather than what do you think of Fred or Pascal or OJ Anunoby or Scotty Barnes. It would be, what is your plan to make the collective better? And how do you get the group to perform better? And then eventually you're going to get into specifics late in maybe in the second or third part of the interview, or third interview of the 3 or 4 that you have to get done. Maybe that's when you talk specifics, and that's when you listen to what they say about this player or that player. And maybe from that list of, let's say they started with 20 guys, 20 people, got it down to 10, had a second interview with them, got it down to 4. Then those 4 come in and meet with the board, maybe Larry, maybe, a couple other front office types. And that's what you pick from. But so the process is slow. And, I talked to a guy in Detroit yesterday. They're looking for a coach. They said now they might wait till after the draft. That's June 22nd. I think the Raptors probably get it done before June 10th, but that's just me guessing because I think they want a coach in place for the final run up in the draft workouts.